Throughout history, memorable events are written and kept for reference in books. These books quickly became a center of attraction to modern-day historians as they try to uncover their secrets. However, some of these books stand out with the scary content contained within them. They're filled with unknown languages and bizarre events documented thousands of years ago. Who could have written these books? Could it be aliens who lived on Earth before humans? Join us as we explore 15 of the most mysterious books written in history. Number 15, 2,000-year-old Bible that the Catholic Church tried to hide reveals this secret about Jesus. The Holy Bible is one book that Christians have grown up listening to and even reading the accounts of events that took place as written in the Bible. Comprising the Old and New Testaments, the Bible recounts events that stand as hard proof to show that Jesus once existed and walked over the earth's surface, although all the testaments written in the Bible do not correspond due to small differences between the texts and authors. But one discovery that showed the whole world and the entire religion of Christianity is the 2,000-year-old Bible, which told a different story, especially noting that Jesus was not crucified. The Bible wasn't exactly a Bible, but a book documented by Saint Barnabas, who was one of Apostle Paul's associates. The book was found when a gang of antiquity thieves was caught as they tried to smuggle the Bible and other artifacts worth millions of dollars. All of the pages are made from animal hide and their content is written with handwriting that is hard to replicate. This book is valued at over $20 million and handwritten in Syriac. It is an Aramaic dialect which is also Jesus' native language. A couple of experts have analyzed the book and have postulated that it's 15,000 to 2,000 years old, with the possibility of it being older. However, the contents of this book is what makes it strange. In its account of biblical events, the Gospel of Barnabas states that instead of Jesus, Judas was the one crucified, and Jesus ascended to heaven while he was alive. Another section of the Bible that conflicts with the Holy Bible we all know is Barnabas' Gospel not recognizing Jesus as the Son of God, but only as a prophet who preached the Word of God. The book also nails Apostle Paul, calling him an impostor. This area intrigued biblical scholars and historians based on the fact that St. Barnabas, the believed author of this book, was a close colleague of Apostle Paul. That was very strange and made researchers question, is the book real or fake? Well, when the New Testament was written, the Council from Nicaea is believed to be the one who chose every piece of information that went into the Bible. Now, with what we've seen, it looks like they purposely left out every detail mentioned in the Gospel of Barnabas and other Gospels in favor of more canonical texts. However, some researchers say that the reason for not including details about the Gospel of Barnabas might have to do with his death, because if you examine the Bible, there is no account of St. Barnabas' demise, making him the only saint that didn't have his death mentioned within the scripture. This mysterious book gathered the interest of several researchers worldwide to the point that even the Vatican requested to see the book. Also, experts that have analyzed the book have said that the Bible is original and not a hoax as people perceived it to be. Scholars are still debating the authenticity of this book, but it still hasn't been resolved. We know that there's a lot more to this world, and several details from the biblical era are hidden and kept secret for unknown reasons. Hopefully, we will arrive at an answer in the coming years. Number 14, the Book of Soiga. The Book of Soiga, also known as Alderaya, is one of history's most widely known mysterious books. It is an early 16th century treatise on demonology written in Latin, and even today historians do not know the author of this book, but one person that was well associated with this book was John Dee. John Dee was a distinguished English mathematician, astronomer, and occult philosopher who served as advisor to Elizabeth I. He came across the book in the early 1580s and spent the rest of his life trying to decode its contents. As the book was primarily written in regular Latin, Dee could read it easily. He made studying the book part of his everyday life, studying sections that explained protection spells and magical formulas and described conjurations in the book. The book also included paragraphs that explained the hierarchies of angels and demons. However, the English astronomer was not able to decipher the final 36 pages of the book. The book's last pages contained tables alongside random Latin letters, which turned out to be some kind of coded message. And to decipher these messages, he used some unorthodox methods to decipher meaning, but all was to no avail. John Dee then called his close friend Edward Kelly into the picture. Edward Kelly was a prominent English occultist and self-acclaimed spirit medium, so he and Dee performed rituals to summon the archangel Uriel and asked him questions about the final 36 pages. The angel who communicated through Kelly's mouth said the book came into existence when Adam entered paradise and that Archangel Michael could interpret the entire book. These codes remained unsolved right up until Dee's death in the 1610s, after which the book disappeared. In its absence, historians and occultists had thought it was lost forever or destroyed until a copy of the book was discovered among some ancient books in the British Library in London. A few months later, another copy was found in Oxford University's Bodleian Library. After discovering the book, a historian and cryptographer named Jim Reeds decoded the final 36 pages. He found an algorithm for solving the encrypted tables, containing a list of magical incantations, astrological terms, and other names of angels and demons. Number 13. The Egyptian Handbook of Ritual Power. Egyptians are characterized by their forms of writing hieroglyphs and noting events. However, they also have manuscripts, the oldest being the pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead. These manuscripts contain several spells and religious rituals that link to death and the afterlife. These manuscripts are then joined with many later papyrus scrolls comprising magical formulae for health and prosperity. However, attached within also are curses for the practitioner's enemies. As ancient Egypt thrived, these texts became more embedded in the civilization's beliefs. But among all these manuscripts, one stands out to be strange. This said manuscript is the Egyptian Handbook of Ritual Power. It is a book of magic said to hold the secrets of a lost Christian sect. This Handbook of Ritual Power is a parchment book of 20 pages written in Coptic. Coptic is a Greco-Egyptian language first developed in the 2nd century BC. It comprises several spells and curses customary in other texts. However, the book pays obeisance to a mysterious central figure named Bakhtiotha. Bakhtiotha in the handbook is regarded as the Great One who is lord over the 49 kinds of serpents, a detail that is not found in any other text. However, some researchers theorize that this reference to Seth directs the creators of this book to be the Sethians. The Sethians are a mysterious, heretical early Christian sect on the verge of perishing by the 7th century AD. Although this explanation sheds no light on the importance of Bakhtiotha or the book's strange mix of Christian and occult traditions. Number 12. The Rohones Codex. The Rohones Codex is another mysterious book with hints of ancient cultures. It is a 448-page-long manuscript that was seen for the first time in 1839 in Hungary and was donated to the Hungarian Academy of Sciences by Count Gustav Bocciani. Although the Rohones Codex looks medieval, its papers are dated between 1529 to 1540. The first mysterious thing about this strange book is the weird symbol used like a watermark, a 6-rayed star containing an anchor within a circle. Like the Book of Soiga, there is no information regarding the book's author or origin. Even though the book's writing style looks like Old Hungarian, it also comprises an unrecognized alphabet of around 200 symbols. Researchers and historians have postulated that this is not a recognized substitution cipher, but a code based on a completely unknown system. The codex is further shrouded in mystery, with its 87 illustrations showing a blend of warfare and symbols related to Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism. Some of the analyses done on the pictures have made some researchers and authorities think that the codex links to the ancient Sumer or India, but without a translation, we will never know. Number 11. The Smithfield Decretals. The Smithfield Decretals is a manuscript copy of the Decretals of Pope Gregory IX, who served as Pope from 1227 to 1241 AD, with a gloss by Bernard of Parma. It was originally duplicated in southern France in the city of Toulouse near the end of the 1200s or beginning of the 1300s. Pope Gregory IX's Decretals is a set of works of canon law that was produced in 1230 by Saint Raymond of Peñafort by the command of the Pope. In the period when the Smithfield Decretals were copied, the Decretals were still regarded as essential reading for anyone studying canon law. There are over 600 different surviving manuscripts of Gregory IX's decretals. This explains how important the work is and how influential it was at the time. Another thing that makes the Smithfield Decretals stand out is that it's comprehensively illustrated. It comprises far more illustrations than any other existing copy of the Decretals. The original scribes who replicated the Smithfield Decretals in southern France by the 13th century created elaborate illustrations for the beginnings of each of the 5 books that comprise the text. These illustrations, drawn by the original French illustrators, are very important to the text and show scenes of Pope Gregory IX and his supporters. They are, for the most part, not strange, but rather exactly the sort of illustrations you would expect to find in a manuscript of such a relevant legal text. The text margins were left blank on purpose by the original French scribes. They were left so that future owners of the text could also include their notes and annotations to the manuscript. For this reason, the manuscript would have initially had a lot of blank space, especially in the margins. But by 1340, the Smithfield Decretals went to another person's possession in London, and that person paid some illustrators to add more illustrations to the text. Number 10. The Voynich Manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is another of these enigmatic books with very strange contents. It is a roughly 240-page medieval codex documented in a strange language that has not been translated for over 500 years. The book is also filled with weird drawings of esoteric plants, astrological symbols, and naked women. Basically, this book goes against all forms of classification, not to talk of comprehension. With research and forensic testing done by scientists and historians, the Voynich manuscript likely dates back to the 15th century. This was a time when books were handmade and rare, but where the book originated and who wrote it is still unknown. These missing details about the book make it virtually impossible to authenticate its contents against other ancient materials. The manuscript was acquired in 1912 by Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish dealer known to collect rare books. However, possessing this book didn't make Voynich rich like he thought it would, but the manuscript started to make headlines for over 100 years, challenging researchers across several fields, including machine learning, botany, and linguistics. Looking like a modern book rather than a scroll, the Voynich manuscript is filled with several handwritten texts written in elaborate script. It is also filled with illustrations of different herbs, animals, maps, people, and astrology. As a result, some people came up with the theory that the book might have been medicinal. As researchers were intrigued with the codes in the manuscript, they kept snooping around trying to translate the code. One of these scientists is German Egyptologist Rainer Hannig. Hannig studied the manuscript for 3 years, then announced in June 2020 that he had found a way to translate the code. Hannig wrote in his thesis, "The word structure leaves only one possible explanation. The manuscript was not composed in an Indo-European language. Instead, he believes the book is written in a Semitic language such as Hebrew, Arabic, or Aramaic. Also, full translation might take up to a year." The book now resides at the Beinecke Library at Yale University. Number 9. The Oera Linda Book. Back in the 19th century, using local folklore and ancient legends to boost a sense of identity was one method used by ascendant nationalism in Europe. One such example is the Oera Linda book, which was allegedly written in Old Frisian in 1256 CE, but most people believe it's a fake book written at a point in the 19th century. The Oera Linda book is believed to talk about the Frisian people, a Germanic tribe. It talks about episodic chronicles of war and the movements of the Frisian people. In fact, the book also described very accurate events from 2194 BCE to 803 C. Now, this is where it gets strange. If people said this book wasn't original, then how did it describe several terrible events that happened and even at one point talk about the lost city of Atlantis? It's strange because despite being called a forgery, the Oera Linda book predicted the beginning of the modern Atlantis craze, which started with Ignatius Donnelly's Atlantis. It is a book named The Antediluvian World, published in 1882. The Oera Linda book also laid claims that a peaceful matriarch governed Europe for most of its history. It also noted that the Frisians invented writing, although the book also has a bad side. Some parts of the Oera Linda book have touches of discrimination and intolerance, which would irritate most modern readers. Nevertheless, this blend of themes has caused continued fascination with this text, regardless of its authenticity. The Futureunity book is also referred to as Himmler's Bible. It is named after Nazi Heinrich Himmler due to his obsession with it after historian Hermann Wirth publicized a German translation in 1933. Number 8. Carl Jung's Red Book. Unlike other mysterious books we have discussed, this book has a known author. However, it doesn't make a difference as the author himself is one mesmerizing and prominent character in the history of psychology. Born in 1875, Carl Gustav Jung became a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who established analytical psychology. Sigmund Freud mentored him before he broke off to find his theory of human behavior, generally regarded as Jungian psychology. In the late 30s, Jung began writing the Red Book. The Red Book is a mythological novel that also served as a journal. Jung wrote this book to transport the reader through Jung's fantasies. He does this by entering a state he calls his mythopoetic imagination, where he becomes unconscious and hallucinates. He went on this journey for over 16 years, and as a theorist, he documented every experience he saw and felt. Jung started by taking notes in several small black journals before analyzing his fantasies, taking notes in a royal prophetic tone in the big red leather book. Many historical and religious figures were seen in Jung's Red Book. When they appeared to him, Jung would engage them in a conversation, asking their reason for being here and their purpose. All these happened in a weird, shifting dreamscape. He detailed his encounters in 205 oversized pages with elaborate calligraphy and richly hued, staggeringly detailed paintings. After writing all his adventures in German, he kept the book from the public for nearly 80 years in fear of ruining his reputation. The book was eventually released in 2009 to the public. Number 7. The Sarajevo Haggadah. Every year on Passover, Jews worldwide gather with their families to commemorate the Exodus from Egypt. During this celebration, a process is done where the Jews take turns in reading texts from a book called a Haggadah. Now, these books have become precious artifacts, yet mysterious. Measuring 16.5 centimeters by 22.8 centimeters, the Sarajevo Haggadah comprises 142 leaves of very thin, bleached calfskin vellum. The Sarajevo Haggadah's current size came to be when an Austro-Hungarian government official tore the original medieval binding in Vienna in the 1890s, then cropped the page to fit the cheaper and new paper covers. It was made in Barcelona around 1350 and left Spain in 1492 after the Jews got expelled. Afterward, it appeared in Italy in the 17th century before getting sold to the National Museum of Sarajevo in 1894. But the mystery starts with how the Haggadah moved from Italy to Sarajevo in Bosnia. It remains unknown to this day. Also, the exact name of who commissioned the Sarajevo Haggadah is unknown, but it is theorized to have been a wedding present to some families. This theory looks valid because the coat of arms of two families were displayed side by side on the same page as the city of Barcelona. It has also escaped destruction several times. It escaped damage during World War II when the Haggadah was hidden in a countryside mosque. It also escaped destruction during the Yugoslavian Civil War when it was moved to an underground bank vault after being thrown on the floor as junk during a break-in at the National Museum. Today, the Sarajevo Haggadah is on permanent display at the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina in Sarajevo. Number 6. The Grolier Codex, the oldest Mesoamerican manuscript whose discovery and meaning are shrouded in mystery. The Mayan culture thrived from 2000 BC until the Spanish invasion of 1697 AD. This ancient culture built several monuments and structures in their years of flourishing. However, much evidence was left behind when the Spanish arrived, including huge ceremonial centers. One such center is Tikal in Guatemala. At Tikal, proofs of Mayan art and science were well kept, including astronomical calendars and the Mayans' advanced hieroglyphic-based writing system. This writing system was well carved into the stone of public monuments. The mystery of the Grolier Codex of Mexico started with circumstances surrounding its discovery. These circumstances were events that long cast doubts on its authenticity. First, the strange manuscript was found in a Mexican cave in the 1960s, along with a turquoise mask. However, this finding was not made by archaeologists but by ambitious looters who sold the book to a Mexican collector, Dr. Josue Sainz. Sainz then displayed the text in the Grolier Club in New York, which gave the book its original name. The circumstances that led to its discovery made many experts perceive the mysterious manuscript as a fake. However, recent analysis of the book's paper and the painting in its sketches have confirmed that it is a genuine Mayan manuscript dating from around 1230 AD. This record also makes it the oldest book in the Americas. However, there are questions about the codex's exact nature. Only 60% of Mayan writing is understood, and 11 pages of the book are lost. Furthermore, while part of the book relates to the movement of the planet Venus, experts still need to decode the meanings behind the text and pictures. They would also need to study several unknown Mayan deities to understand the book fully. Number 5. The Madrid Codex. The Madrid Codex contains a largely illustrated glyphic text of the pre-conquest Mayan era. It is also one of the few known books of the Mayans that survived the Spanish invasion and mass book burnings that the Spanish clergy did in the 16th century. The variant Tro Cortesianus is a result of the early separation of the manuscript into two parts. The first part, pages 22 to 56 and 78 to 112, is known as Troiano for its first owner, while pages 1 to 21 and 57 to 77 are known as Cortesianus. The Madrid Codex is believed to be a product of the late Mayan period, dated 1400 CE. It is perceived to be a post-classic copy of classic Mayan scholarship, possibly. The figures and glyphs of this codex are not well drawn and not good in quality when compared to those of the other existing codices. The Madrid Codex also contains a bedrock of divinatory practices and astrology information. It has been a useful resource to anthropologists and historians who are often researching the various Mayan gods and rebuilding the rites that welcome the new year. It also gives insights into other Mayan ways of life. For example, the Muluk years are celebrated by a dance on high stilts. Also drawn are Mayan crafts such as pottery and weaving, and other activities such as hunting. Number 4. Liber Linteus. Liber Linteus is one of the most mysterious manuscripts found, because if it isn't mysterious, why are they preserved in the wrappings of an Egyptian mummy? And that's not all, by the way. The text is written in Etruscan, a language used in Italy in ancient times. Dating as far back as 2,200 years, the mummy and its removed wrappings are now at the Zagreb Museum in Croatia. A mysterious thing about this text is that it's not completely clear. In the past, it was classified as a funerary calendar. Nowadays, it is usually identified as a ritual calendar, even though months are only mentioned from column 6 onwards. Lammert Boek Vandermeer, a professor at Leiden University, wrote in an essay published in the book Votives, Places and Rituals in Etruscan Religion. In ancient Egypt, it was common for materials to be used again as mummy wrappings or to make mummy masks. Also, trade around the Mediterranean in ancient times was a popular endeavor, and it was not unusual for goods to be transported between Italy and Egypt, according to ancient records and archaeological discoveries. Number 3. Gospel of the Lots of Mary. Written in Coptic and dating back around 1500 years, the Gospel of the Lots of Mary is the scariest gospel you can ever see. The Gospel of the Lots of Mary doesn't talk about the life and existence of Jesus, but instead comprises a series of 37 oracles written faintly with only some words that mention Jesus. The book's opening begins as follows: The Gospel of the Lots of Mary, the mother of the Lord Jesus Christ, to whom Gabriel the archangel brought the good news. He who will go forward wholeheartedly will obtain what he seeks, only do not be of two minds. The text, now located at Harvard University, was decoded and details were published in 2014 by Anne-Marie Loyendijk, a professor in the Department of Religion at Princeton University. In her book, Forbidden Oracles, The Gospel of the Lots of Mary, she wrote that the gospel would have been used for divination, an attempt to foretell the future. For example, a person seeking an answer to a question could have sought out the owner of this book, asked a question, and gone through a process that would randomly pick one of the 37 oracles to help find a solution to the person's problem. How the process would have worked is unknown, though it's unclear how the book got to the United States. It was donated to Harvard in 1984. Number 2. The Dresden Codex. The Dresden Codex is a Mayan text dating as far back as 800 years. It comprises 39 perfectly illustrated sheets with text and images on both sides. Research published in 2016 in the Journal of Astronomy in Culture shows that the Codex records parts of the planet Venus so that the Maya would be sure that their ceremonial events were being held on the exact day as stipulated. When studying the Mayan civilization, researcher Gerardo Aldana, a science historian at the University of California, explained the outcome of his research. He explained that the Maya had a long list of elaborate events tied to their calendar. As a matter of fact, it was theorized they were probably doing large-scale ritual activity connected to the different phases of Venus. The Dresden Codex first appeared at the Royal Library in Dresden, Germany in the 1730s. How it got there is a complete mystery, but it was a great way to escape zealous Christian missionaries who were trying to wipe out any non-Christian beliefs at the time. Number 1. The Gospel of Judas. In 2006, the National Geographic Society published a translation of the 3rd century text named the Gospel of Judas. The translation was done to show Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples who betrayed Jesus, in a good light and not the betrayer everyone perceives him to be. It was done majorly because of the text, which was written in Coptic, as scholars argued that the text describes Jesus asking Judas to betray him so that he could be crucified and ascend into heaven. However, experts disagree over the translation and interpretation of the text. April DeConnick, a professor of religion at Rice University in Houston, noted the text declares Judas to be a demon. Tests on the Gospel of Judas also indicate that the text, written in Coptic, is authentic, as a team led by microscopist Joseph Barabay of Macron Associates in Illinois carried out the test. Which of these books do you think is the scariest? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.